Hi, my name is Christina Beaton. I'm the Environmental Coordinator with the City of Timmins, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Bee City. So the City of Timmins became a Bee City in September of 2019, and with that designation, we are committed to creating, educating, and celebrating pollinators and pollinator habitats within our community. Our Bee City we have a Bee City pollinator team, and that team is made up of a group of community members from horticultural societies, city staff members. We have local mining companies involved, and we have the Conservation Authority and a local edible and native landscaping company. And so this wealth of knowledge, we're using that to be able to create these events and create a more sustainable community and pollinator-friendly community for the City of Timmins. For volunteering activities, right now we don't have anything in the works, but we're looking in the spring of 2021 and in the summer to have some events to be able to celebrate pollinator habitats and be able to promote the Bee City Canada designation. And so if anybody's interested or has questions about Bee City, they could contact me at environmental.services@timmins.ca. And what you can do to participate is create a pollinator-friendly garden. And we'd like to see this across the community. So if you're interested, you can also visit beecitycanada.org for some tips, and also take the pollinator pledge. And there's a pollinator map, a protector map that you can see on the beecitycanada.org website, and you can see everybody across Canada has taken that pledge. So we encourage you to do that as well.
Hi, my name is Jen Nobel, and I am the owner and designer at a local company called Northbound Bloom, and we focus on edible and native landscapes. So Bee City is something near and dear to our hearts. Being able to protect our local pollinators is incredibly important to our biodiversity and the health of our local ecosystem. So anyone can create their own pollinator-friendly garden, and we actually encourage, even if you're not even a gardener, it's okay. You can start to take steps towards creating a pollinator-friendly garden, or just a pollinator-friendly yard in your front or your backyard. Or if there's a business nearby close to you and you want to encourage them to start planting things that will help the health of our local pollinators, we encourage that for everyone. So there's a few tips that you can follow to create a pollinator-friendly garden. And as you can see, as an example here, our beautiful Bannerman Park, creating diversity in your garden is one of the biggest things you can do. Not just planting one species, but planting a multitude of species, specifically native plants, if you are able to get a hold of those. And some of our local nurseries, they sell those, and you can just ask around with our local horticultural societies. A lot of people are happy to split up some native plants that they're growing personally in their backyards and share them with other people. So our native plants are actually going to help support our native pollinators. So if we go and we plant annual plants, those are plants that you plant once a year and you have to replant them every year. A lot of times those annual plants are not indigenous, they're not native to our area. So it doesn't mean that they're not healthy for our pollinators, it just means that they won't support them the best. So the more diversity you can plant, the healthier our pollinators will be. We also recommend, if you can, adding just like a small water source to your garden. It can be a bird bath if you have access to that. It can also just be a simple Tupperware container that's filled with water, maybe even just filled with rainwater whenever it rains, and that will give a water source to our local pollinators as well. Adding and leaving debris on the ground is also a great idea for our pollinators as well. They need habitat as well, and in an urban setting, it's hard to find sometimes. We like to really manicure our lawns, we like to rake our leaves, and that actually eliminates a lot of the habitat for our local pollinators. So if you're able to leave your leaves on the ground in the fall and in the spring and not necessarily rake them up, that will help. Or you can leave, if you want a little bit of a cleaner look, you can grab some rocks or some twigs or some branches and kind of leave them in piles, organized piles maybe, around your yard, and that will help provide opportunity for our pollinators to create habitat. And last but not least, it's so important that we start to reduce the amount of pesticides that we use in our front and our backyards. So if at all possible in your yard, try to take a step towards managing your lawn and your plants without using chemicals, because our pollinators come in, they come to check out your yard, they check out your flowers, and if there are insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, any sort of chemical on them, we're going to start to kill off our local pollinators, and we want to encourage the health of them as much as possible. So the elimination completely or reduction of chemicals in your yard is something huge that we can do in our city and in your backyard.
Great. So here's the contact information for Bee City Timmins and Northbound Bloom. We're fortunate to have City of Timmins Environmental Coordinator Christina Beaton and Board Chair of the Wintergreen Fund, Mark Giron, here with us. Anything you'd like to add to your presentation, folks?
Mark's going to speak a little bit about...
I just brought an example of exactly what Jen was talking about, but just one thing that Jen did mention about the lawns and keeping the leaves on the lawn. The great thing is, leave the leaves on the lawn and use your lawnmower, you're mulching more, and it'll just get rid of them by mulching them into the lawn. But talking about local pollinators, and a great pollinator we have around here is the milkweed. And on my way over here tonight, I actually looked to see how they're doing, and the milkweed are doing their thing. They're becoming much like a weed. And this seed, of course, this has been local here in town for many years, and this milkweed is a flower that is really great for pollinators, and as it turns out, it's also the only plant that the monarch butterfly larva will eat. So in the last 5 years, before that we hadn't seen many monarchs in town, but now that we've been expanding with this specific plant, we're actually seeing more butterflies, the monarchs in town. So the monarch is one of the pollinators, and this is just one example, as they talk in the video, of how great local seed being collected can be used. And the other thing is, just local seed is, of course, the Porcupine Library has a seed library. So they always encourage people that have native plants, let something go to seed and provide it to the seed library so that others then can have that seed available to them.
And yeah, it's also a wealth of knowledge as well, being part of the seed library. If you're able to participate, you can ask lots of questions. We have horticultural societies available. We have local experts that we can tap into their knowledge to be able to create pollinator-friendly gardens. And if you also want to browse through the beecitycanada.org, they have a lot of really great tips and on how to create a pollinator garden and taking that pollinator protection pledge. Trying to get a few more people from City of Timmins and our community to be able to take that pledge so that we can put our mark on the map. So if you have any questions, our contact information is there, and we encourage you to create a pollinator-friendly garden.
Great. Thank you so much for both being here. If you remember last week, if you joined us last week, we had the Timmins Public Library and the Porcupine Library, and they did talk about their seed library, so that's great. Very cool.